What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Truck Central. I'm Mr. Justin Wheeler, and this is my 2019 Ram 1500 Limited High Mileage RamBox Edition. A quick thank you to our sponsor, Real Truck. They have provided a gaggle of parts for this vehicle. If there's anything you need for your Ram, or any make and model for that matter, please head on over to realtruck.com and pick yourself out something nice. To RamBox or not to RamBox? That is the question. And it is a good question, and it is one that I faced myself once upon a time back in the fall of 2019 when I picked up this 5th gen Hemi. And I wasn't sure at the time of buying this truck that I would be sold on the RamBoxes. Like many of you, you've probably noticed that on the 4th gen Rams with RamBoxes, they looked fine, but I noticed as years went on, you started to see some warpage on the lids that kind of broke up the body line in a weird way. It didn't feel fully refined. There was nothing wrong with it, but I just wasn't sold in the 4th gen. When the 5th gens came out, which is what this truck has, obviously, I was a little more impressed. They were a little cleaner. They've got the push button, you know, the electric button. They just seemed a little more polished, right? And so I decided, hey, I'll take the chance. We'll see if they work out. Worst case scenario, you know, they suck, and then I just won't use them, and then we'll move on. So I decided, let me make a pros and cons list for those of you out there who are considering RamBoxes or not RamBoxes, and you decide for yourself if they're going to be a good fit. Full disclaimer, before I reveal my true opinions about the RamBoxes, I do need to say that I use these RamBoxes every single day, whether it be for my real full-time job, whether it be for my personal hobbies, whether it be for just, I don't know, random miscellaneous stuff. I'm in and out of both sides every single day, at least once a day, and on a busy week I probably open and close them 100 times a day. That may be an exaggeration, at least 10. So we'll start with the cons. What are the cons? The most obvious cons, and there are only a few, and I feel like these are fairly objective, right? Because the things that aren't great about them, I think we can all agree on. For one, you do lose a little bit of bed space. It's not a lot of bed space, and the space between the wheel wells isn't really inhibited much. You can still fit a full 4x8 sheet of ply into the bed, or sheetrock, or whatever you can fit in there, and I've done it many times. That's no problem. But you do lose a little space. We're on a traditional bed. The space in front of and behind your wheel wells, it kind of goes around, you know, you lose that. But granted, that's not super useful space, because there's no flat bottom, or not much flat bottom to stack things on. Now, yeah, if you're filling your truck bed full of sand, or if you're making a hillbilly hot tub and you put a tarp in it and, you know, you fill it up, yeah, a traditional bed will hold more. There's more space, but it's not real usable space. So I don't feel like I'm missing anything by having the RamBoxes in terms of bed capacity. I can fit just as much stuff in this truck as anybody can, if you, in terms of like the amount of boxes it can hold, where you need a nice flat square footprint. Just as good. Number two, what's not great about it, or second con, I guess, it does kind of break up the body line a little bit. You could say it's less aesthetically pleasing than a non-RamBox truck, and to a degree I will agree, but there's a caveat to that, and it's that there are parts of the RamBox, you know, characteristics that I actually think are better. There are not many instances, but there are some. For example, the way that these trucks look with bed covers, I actually think are better, especially if you have the soft or rolling type of bed cover, because it actually has a better transition from the cover itself to the bed. If you've ever seen a truck with a normal bed and a soft rolling bed cover, it's always a weird transition between the edge of the bed cover and the top of the bed sides itself. And in some cases, it's downright unattractive because it's the way the bed rails are shaped. It just doesn't look right. On the RamBoxes, because everything is squared off, it's really easy for these bed cover manufacturers to create a nice sharp delineation between the two pieces. So bed cover interfaceability, I actually think is better with the RamBox. Now that's not a pro, that's just kind of a caveat to the cons. Granted, the bed side where the toolbox comes up, not as good. It doesn't look as clean, but I don't think it looks bad. Third con would be there's just more stuff that could go wrong, I guess. More moving parts. There's lights inside there, there's locks inside there, there's an outlet inside there. So it's just, I guess it's greater exposure to failure. Now that's, if your light inside the RamBox doesn't work, that doesn't make it the RamBox a bad thing, but it's just another potential point of disappointment, I guess. You can tell I'm really trying to grasp for things that are bad about the RamBoxes, because as you'll see in a second, I'm kind of a RamBox fanboy, if that's such a thing. Third con, they don't hold up as well as I kind of wish, and this is probably the biggest thing for me. Ram still hasn't been able to nail down how to keep the RamBoxes perfectly flat and straight. Even these are starting to curl up at the edges just so slightly. Granted, it could be because my fat butt puts my feet right in the center of that thing and bounces up and down on it from time to time. Not always, but I've done it. And so that's probably not good for it. And I'm confident that I could straighten that out with some subframe reinforcement. It wouldn't be that big a deal. I'm also very confident that Ram could have done the same thing, or can do the same thing. So Ram, if you're watching this, just put some damn aluminum struts or some sort of metal subframe in there and just be done with it. Because when it curls like that, the actual painted portion, I don't know what material that is, if it's plastic or whatever, it actually separates from the textured top portion. You know, it's two pieces. There's the top part and then there's the lid part, and that curve or curls causes it to have a little bit of a gap, and it's, quite frankly, it doesn't look great. It's not extreme, but it's noticeable, and it's fixable, I think. And maybe one of these days I'll go to fix it and I'll send my idea to Ram and they'll take it and they'll run with it. Who knows? Alright, so now those are pretty much the only cons I can think of. Maybe one final con is that those RamBoxes are probably not quite as secure as a toolbox in the bed with a big barrel tumbler or a big thick master lock padlock on it. Maybe. Granted, I haven't had my RamBoxes broken into, so I can't say. They definitely wouldn't be easy, but it might be easier to put a pry bar or a crowbar in there and just pop them loose. Here's a suggestion: don't put insanely valuable things in your RamBox. I've got basic battery power tools and hand tools, but nothing that I would lose sleep over if they got in there and stole them. I'd be more upset about them breaking my RamBox lids than anything, I can promise you that. So now let's get into the pros. I think I've really fully covered the only bad things about them, and they're, like I said, they're minimal and not many. So the pros, they hold a lot of stuff. I mean a lot. I've got a half inch impact, a 1/4 inch impact, a drill, a sawzall, a angle grinder, a full set of impact sockets, come-alongs, ratchet straps, jumper cables, an air inflator, a whole bag of hand tools, cleaner, paper towels, bungee cords, a large bag of zip ties, and I'm just rattling off what I know is in there right now. There's probably, there's tons of other things, and they're not fully maxed out. You can fit a lot of stuff in them. Now, the other nice thing about them, like I mentioned earlier, is there's an outlet, which, that's not a novel thing, but it's really nice to have battery-powered tools that I can keep on the charger in the toolbox at all times. I know that if I were to have a blowout today, that I could pull over, grab my impact, have a fully charged battery, take that wheel off, swap out the spare, and I could be back on the road in 10 minutes. And that's part of the fact that I know my battery's charged, quick and easy to get to, flip up this driver's side, battery, impact, deep sockets, and I'm ready. I don't gotta climb into the bed. I don't gotta open the bed cover at all, drop the tailgate. I don't have to do any of that. I've got access to all the primary tools I need to do a very basic job. And I've had multiple trucks with the toolboxes that open from the side, the old weather guard, the tried and true, you don't see those much anymore. And I don't know why. Probably because bed covers have become so popular over the last 5-10 years. The side open weather guards, and there's lots of other brands that make them, those just aren't as common as they used to be. But even when they were common, and even when I used plenty of them, you open the side and you've got 18 inches of tools right here in the top, and everything else just gets buried in your other tools. And some of them had some useful sliders and trays, and they're usable, don't get me wrong, but there's something about the RamBox where you use the whole side of the bed, you open it up and all your tools are nicely laid out, all very reachable. Now the bottom of the RamBox is where it goes deep before and after the wheel well. I do have to dig for stuff like that sometimes, but I try to put kind of less useful stuff in the bottom. And that kind of is I guess I've already kind of got into pro number 2, which is just usability. It is so nice to be able to stand on the ground at ground level, open them up, and have access to everything I need. I do still keep a couple small toolboxes in the bed, but it's not my go-to stuff. It's mainly just the stuff I need less often. And that just isn't my biased opinion. I work in a field and lab and office environment, so I kind of get a full range of co-workers that I see on a weekly basis, and I have championed these so loudly that I've got everybody I work with wanting to go sell their truck and buy RamBoxes because they are that handy. I can work circles around guys who are getting in and out of their trucks trying to just get their tools out, much less get the job done. This past week I worked with a co-worker who has the full Milwaukee pack out lineup, right? Which is an incredibly cool tool interface, solution. It's the interlocking boxes that they click together and they open and close. It's cool, granted. I think that's more useful for guys who have to take their tools out of their truck, maybe like a electrical contractor who has to unload his equipment, wheel it into a home or business, and use his tools that way. But working out of the back of a truck, it doesn't even compare to the RamBoxes. He's constantly trying to open and close, open and close, open and close to get what I can get with one single open. That wasn't even a fair fight, honestly. These RamBoxes are so handy that I am having serious anxiety about any future trucks that I want to purchase or use on a day-to-day basis. We mentioned a few videos ago how I have pre-ordered both the Ford Lightning EV truck as well as the Tesla Cybertruck. The Ford Lightning we know will be here sooner or later, although it is delayed. The Cybertruck, still up in the air on whether or not they'll ever finally come out. Regardless, I'm going to have a really hard time transitioning from this truck to anything without RamBoxes. Kudos to Ram for coming up with something that really makes their product sticky and increases customer retention, because, man, the RamBoxes are the biggest thing for me in this truck. And that probably sounds silly because there's lots of other great things about this. Let me back up, or let me rephrase that. The RamBoxes aren't my favorite thing about this truck, but the RamBoxes are probably what I would miss the most if I went from this to something else. You know what I really want? The new Ram EV truck with RamBoxes. That's what I'm really looking forward to. Hell, that may be out before the Tesla Cybertruck. Who knows? So that pros list also isn't very long, but it is extremely relevant and important in my opinion. They hold a lot of stuff. They charge your stuff. It's easy to get to. It increases efficiency. It keeps me from having to climb into the bed of my truck all the time. And it really just adds to my overall general happiness and user experience with this truck. And that's what it's all about. The inside of this truck is the same way. It is a pleasure to drive this truck because it's so comfortable. It has all the bells and whistles. It's just a fun, comfortable truck to drive, which is one half of the equation, right? You want to be comfortable getting from point A to point B. In my case, when I get to point B, I need this truck to be efficient from a workability standpoint. Can I do my job when I get there? And the RamBoxes enable me to do that, and they knock it out of the park. Cons being, maybe they don't look as clean. Maybe not. Cons being, they may not hold up well to long-term use. And that's kind of gonna maybe be case by case. I beat mine up pretty hard. I open and close mine constantly. But you know, after a couple years and 150,000 rough miles, they still look and work just fine. So if you are on the fence about whether or not RamBoxes are for you, consider what you're going to use them for. If it's going to be something that you just throw, you know, a pair of work gloves in and you open once every 6 months, don't get it. Get a normal bedded truck, get a little bit more space in there for when you need it, and don't worry about it. If you got to haul around a lot of tools, and if you frequently use tools like on a daily basis, you will absolutely not regret it. So leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you think about the RamBoxes. Let me know if you want to hear any more specific details about them. You know, I look forward to talking to you in the comments. One final thank you again to realtruck.com for sponsoring this video, as well as all the parts that we have installed. You can find the links to those videos in the playlist. As always, thanks for watching.